A very good evening and welcome all of you to Munch UK. I'm delighted to be the third artist as part of their Meet the Artist series. At the outset, I'd like to thank Munch because they're curating this wonderful Meet the Artist event, which is bringing together 30 artists for 30 days, every single day, UK time, 6 to 6:30 p.m. I also wanted to specifically thank Meera Kaushik because this exercise of having to relook, sort of retrace my whole sort of artistic journey and path has been such a wondrous exercise, I have to say, especially in this kind of circumstances that we're all sort of embracing at this current day and age, especially with the lockdown and everything. It's been really a pleasurable exercise for me to do, and thank you so much for asking. I think I'm one of the very fortunate artists to have had very many streams of creative nurturings feed into my artistry, and I am what I am today only because of those various streams of creativity that have really spoken to me on various different levels. On the one side, it is the dance, which is the overarching or the overpowering one that has come to be in my kind of life. But again, if you take dance, I've learned Bharatanatyam, I have learned Kathak, I did some short stints of contemporary dance, I did short stints of choreography at MFA level. So that has been the predominant feature. Then I've been really fortunate to have had simultaneously television experience. So television, again, I did various different things in television: news reading, program anchoring, program conceptualizing, directing, and then I also was associated with a lot of event management companies because of the visibility that television gave me. In fact, I think I found myself touring a lot with very many corporate companies for their national events, sometimes government events as well. So that gave me an extra kind of edge of recognition amongst my peers. And then I was born with music surrounding me because my mum is a musician, and it is, you know, she is the main reason for all my artistic pursuance up until date. I'm sure she's watching. Are you Amma? Okay. So there's music, there's dance, there's television, there is the theatre experience. After I came to live in the UK, I auditioned for Complicity, so I had the opportunity to work with one of the best physical theatre companies. I worked with Simon McBurney, who has been a huge influence on my thinking, and that also sowed the seeds in a way for me to start thinking about my own work and how to sort of integrate the highest level or quality level of artistry, devising, collaboration, technology importantly. I did my engineering as an sort of academic qualification for my bachelor's in India. I'm originally born, brought up in Chennai. I came to live in the UK as a new bride, as is the case with very many of us. And I clearly recall, because I was such a busy artist, and I think my diary was like really tight with, you know, packed performances and television and dubbing and whatnot events. And I think I was out about doing all these performance activities up until less than 24 hours before my wedding. And I think some of them after the wedding, they were saying, oh, maybe actually the wedding also felt a little bit like a performance activity. So, and then immediately from that bustling kind of really hyperactive environment, 10 days after my wedding, here I am in a very cold, wintry January, you know, typical British weather here, completely in contrast to how or where I have been in the center of the city in Chennai, where I used to wake up listening to the vendors sort of giving or selling things that would really wake me up. And here it was totally the opposite side of the pole, which is to do with quietude, silence, of course a little bit of snow and the cold, of course. It took me a while, and it was the initial kind of few months of really trying to think where or how do I begin. It was actually, in a way we could probably call it like how now we're all locked in. It was kind of locked out for me in a different way. But then things started to shift very quickly. I think I started, talking to people, and one of the first things that we were told was to get in touch with an organization in London, Academy, with a K and not a C. So that really stuck. And Academy was the first organization to really give me a platform. Meera was there. Avaz was the first production. It was choreographed by Chitra Sundaram, Chitraka as I call her. And the relationship that's sort of started there has stayed up until this very day and minute. In fact, I'm actually working on a production right now. We're in the middle of touring my work called To Varnam with Love, in which she is sort of, I'm working along with her. In terms of my dance, I think I kind of have this towering influence of my guru, Udupi Lakshmi Narayan sir. Udupi sir, as I affectionately call him, he's been such a strong source of inspiration, and he is still there, always here, even though he passed away in 2015. But everything and anything that I do in this space, which is my dance room as we've come to call it, is always happening under his watchful eye. And there you see all thank you cards from my students. That is another dimension that I have sort of embraced. The truth is I never wanted to take up dance as a performing career or teaching as such, but it's just come to be. And partly it's also to do with the fact that I was brought up in a community wherein music and dance is all part of your everyday sort of activity, but it's mostly after school activities. It was never considered to be a professional career option, for example. In my community, and I'm the first generation artist in my community, and in my family, sorry, I'm the first generation artist from my family, and I owe it all to my mum. And I think my mother, in fact, convinced my dad to give up his job when I was born, only because of the fact that she wanted me to study in a specific school called Padma Seshadri, PSBB, as it's very popularly known in Chennai. And I really owe my seeds of interest in music and dance to Padma Seshadri or PSBB. Because of the fact that PSBB really is one of those schools which, sorry, I thought the sound was a bit too loud. PSBB's influence in my journey is very strong, and the brain behind the school was the late Dr. Mrs. Y.G. Parthasarathi. She was an immensely inspirational woman, and I sort of started learning dance there, and then from there on I was sort of recommended a proper guru, the Arvindans, with whom I did my Arangetram thing in 93. Gosh, it makes me feel really ancient. So after my Arangetram, they relocated from Chennai, which eventually brought me to Udupi sir. And the story of how my mom and dad found out or located Udupi sir's house. Back then we didn't have all these internet for addresses and contacts, details, etc. So that's a very interesting story, which is another instance. So that is how I sort of ended up with Udupi sir, and he was already in his 60s when I started with him. It was always one-to-one lessons, never time-bound in fact. And one of the best things that I've really embodied or sort of taken on from him is his passion or his fascination to work with rhythm and the complexities of rhythms. His delivery of the rhythm patterns is so unique. For example, tajam ta tarigidaka tangidaka tarigidaka dhimi tajam ta tarigidaka ta tangidaka tarigidaka dam tajam ta tarigidaka dam tajam tajam, and so it goes on. Anyway, so here I am. I was talking to you about my role models and inspirations. I think after I relocated to the UK post my working with Complicity, I remember, I think on the first day of my audition, there was Nitin Sawhney. And Nitin Sawhney then called me to record or jam in for him. And I have an interesting story here because he then put me on to his friend. And I get this call from a recording house asking me to come for a recording. And in all my naivety, I had just landed in the UK. So the minute any opportunity comes, all I wanted to do was to embrace it. So I went for the recording and I came back. It was a whole day of jamming in. And I clearly recall telling my husband, I went for this recording and I think they might be a big Beatles fan because I saw this huge massive black book with the letters BEATLE is written in gold, and a lot of posters about Beatles. Maybe they are a Beatles fan, I think. Anyways, so he said, what was the name of the person you actually met? And I said to him, it was Paul. And then he said, hang on a minute. And then he quickly opened his laptop and he googled images of Sir Paul McCartney, it was. And my knowledge of Western classical music is really very not on par as much as I am sort of. I know about Beatles, the band, but I really did not know or could not identify them by face. And then, you know, it was such an excitement there. My husband was like, oh, I have to really call somebody now. Oh my God, it is night in the UK, and then it's, oh my God, it's going to be too late in India for me to call. I have to tell somebody, I have to tell somebody. So that was a kind of, you know, excitement which was buzzing inside me. And that then led me to always kind of pursue music and make sure that that was part of every piece that I did. There was also the, you know, the Carnatic music, which is very much part of me, part of my ethos. Thanks to my mom, she was my first teacher. Then I went to learn from TVG sir, who gave me a completely different sort of educational training about voice, how to think of it, how to culture it, how to teach it. And I still incorporate those ideas into my students when I train them in music. In fact, I insist to most of my students that you have to learn both, because I've had the opportunity to be able to do both, and I find it's invaluable kind of worth when I perform. And there is that extra element when you know music, when the dancer knows music, you can tell. And when I do contemporary productions, I make it a point that I actually sing live. And again, with regards to music, I also used to sing in a lot of bands back home in Chennai. In fact, that's how I sort of encountered light music. Light music is very much a part of my that's my leisure kind of activity. And in school as well, we were chosen, the select handful, few singers, and we were given the opportunity to sing for the Maestro Ilayaraja's movie. He was a music director for a landmark movie wherein we got a chance to sing, and then we became stars in school. That's a different story. So music, and when I talk about light music, there's one very kind of favorite song that I think my husband's favorite song as well, and mine as well, that he's really put in a request that I have to sort of sing it for you guys today. Mamarayilai mele மாமரையிலை மேலே மார்கழி பனி போலே பூமகள் மடி மீது நான் தூங்கவோ, ராத்திரி பகலாக ஒரு போதும் விலகாமல் ராஜனை கையேந்தி தாலாட்டவோ, நாளும் நாளும் ராகம் தாளம் சேரும் நேரம் தீரும் பாரம். தூங்காத விழிகள் ரெண்டு, உன் துணை தேடும் நெஞ்சம் ஒன்று, செம்பூ மஞ்சம் விரித்தாலும் பன்னீரை தெளித்தாலும் ஆனந்தம் எனக்கேது அன்பே நீ இல்லாது. தூங்காத விழிகள் ரெண்டு, உன் துணை தேடும் நெஞ்சம் ஒன்று. So that was a song from a very popular Tamil movie. It speaks about love, something that we really need in these times. And I think for me, whether I sing Carnatic music, whether I sing light music, or whether I sing anything else, I think the music really does something when you actually try and do it from your own voice, which is also one of the reasons dancers should train to sing. It gives you a different sensibility in your body. And I come from a family of engineers. My dad is an engineer. I think if not for my mom's insistence, he would have become a cricketer. He was a very good cricket player, state level player. And all my uncles, they're all engineers. So naturally, I had to become an engineer. But then there was a point towards the final year of my engineering when I sort of had to make some choices about which direction I needed to journey in. I think I feel like all these experiences really helps me in a way to embed or integrate it into my performance, which is also the reason why my fascination for technology has sort of evolved. I think it sort of came from my master's dissertation when I created the virtual form of it, and thereon my first production I integrated it with visual design. And I think my very ambitious production is Forgot Your Password, and I think Manch UK have put up an excerpt from it. It was a very proud moment for me because I was able to integrate 3D hologram technology, and the company is like Europe's biggest 3D hologram solution provider, and that came about through technological intensive sessions that I think Sampad Pyali was part of it. And I remember going to Madrid for 2 weeks and then doing another 2 weeks at Birmingham. And all of this, actually the production was premiered 3 months after I had my daughter. I clearly remember taking her in the sling just after 28 days she was born, because that's when in our custom we had to wait for 28 days before we took the baby out. So I remember taking her for all these meetings, and then she kind of, within the sling, she would make some noises. It was really one of those times when I was extremely torn, not sure whether what I was doing is the right thing to do or not. But then I think I've come to a stage wherein I kind of have formed my own kind of path in terms of what I want to do and what I want to be pursuing to do. And even though I live in the UK now and it's, I'm here, but then I always keep going back and forth to Chennai, and I'm very much part of the Chennai classical scene, the sabhas. I do my own performances there, and it is a hard ask. And I'm also thankful that I've had different mentors. After Udupi sir, his daughter Madhuvaka is there, and then Nandini Ramani auntie, who's still my mentor in a way. I talk to her. There's a lot of people who are there in terms of being my well-wishers, and it's to all of these people that I really want to say a huge thank you on this day. And I would really want to finish with a short excerpt This is again, although I do very many different choreographies, not just on myself but on my students. When I touring mainstream work, I create contemporary work. But this is one of those things that every single time I do this piece, there is some kind of energy that really encompasses my being. I think it's because of the verse, the power of the text, the sahityam. It is in Tamil language, my mother tongue. And it's by the revolutionary poet Subramanya Bharatiyar. And it speaks about how when there are times when you really feel low, there is that energy that comes from somewhere. And he obviously attributes it to the divinity. And I think coming from, for me, I am a religious person. I believe in God. I feel a sort of an energy that just bursts out of me every single time I do the piece. So I'll do a short excerpt from it. Hope you will enjoy it. And I am just going to take you to my room, the dance room that I call the dance room.
Or if signal may be poor, I think, Wi-Fi signal. Can you just bring it here? Just clear this?
We'll try.
Okay, we'll try.
I think the living room has been converted to a dance room, and living room has always been part of my kind of, I think at Roehampton when I did my master's, I remember having written a whole essay about living room. I trained with all my gurujis in their living room. So living room is such an important part of my dance ethos in a way.
Shiva Shakti, 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 Indra Bhadomo. Shiva Shakti, 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 Indra Bhadomo. Shiva Shakti, 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 Indra Bhadomo. Shiva Shakti, 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 Shiva Shakti, 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 Shiva Shakti, 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 Shiva Shakti, 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 Elvipado. Shiva Shakti, 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 Elvipado.
That's my husband,
Hi.
Venkat. And you saw my daughter, Anika, running in and out. I also wanted to say that, this is a time for you to ask me anything, questions, comments, whatever. And I also wanted to say that that piece that I did is very special because it was choreographed by my guru, DIVYA. And however much I do things, there's something really special about his choreography. Yeah. So there. That was all for you. I'm just going to try and see if there are burning questions. Sorry about in between whatever happened. So there's a question. This technology, okay. Lovely. Thank you so much for really being such a supportive virtual audience. Oh, there's a lot of tech issues. There's no audio. Sorry to hear about that, guys. Next time, probably. Lots of people are saying that's their favorite song, too. What did you take from being in Disappearing Number? And what advice? So, in terms of having been in a landmark production such as Disappearing Number, I think one of the key things that I have learned or taken away from that is the joy of devising and collaborating together and what that can actually create, the magic that it can create. There are many days when I have ended up asking Simon, why did you want Bharatanatyam dancers with acting experience for the audition? And why did you want Bharatanatyam dancers? And he said, because of the connection with the Indian mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, who is also in the same city, Chennai. And Bharatanatyam is the home. I mean, Bharatanatyam's home is Chennai. And there are many days when he would say, I actually don't know. And one of the things that I thought was really humbling to hear it from somebody like Simon is it's okay to not know. And it's okay to say, I don't know. For me, coming from a very traditional upper middle class family, I have always been kind of the revolutionary person in the family because of my mom, because she was the one to put me in television. People are against it. So there's always been an element of a revolutionary streak in me, but then I've never had the boldness or the bravery to really say it out loud, saying, oh, sorry, I can't do this, I don't know. But that's something that I learned working in Disappearing Number. And also the power of anything and everything, from simple to the really high-tech, how it can all be co-created. The co-creating atmosphere is something that I would really subscribe to. What made you? I think there wasn't anything specific that really made me to decide to be a dance teacher. I think it was one of those things that it just happened for me because of my having to come to live in the UK. I was constantly on a quest, on a search. I don't know what I was searching for, what the quest was, but there was a quest. I think as artists, we all need to have that quest. And that sort of eventually manifested with some of my friends suggesting, why don't you start teaching? And also back home, even with Udupi sir and my previous gurus, we've never had the opportunity to be teaching our younger, sort of the younger batches. So that was never on as part of my agenda. So it just happened as a sort of on a trial basis, and then I found my ground and I really enjoy teaching. Yeah. A friend has a message saying, I'm an engineer so I can manage the tech issues. Yes, but there are certain things. How do you maintain energy throughout the performance? Well, that's just the pure practice and the passion that really envelops the being when you start to perform. I in fact forget everything else. And you have to forget, otherwise you become really conscious, and that really will change the dynamic. I think even today there were some elements like Anika's toys and she running here and there, distracting. But then, yeah, I try my best. Sadhana. Maybe you should subscribe it to Sadhana. What would my advice be to the younger generation? Oh, okay. I think the younger generation, what I have learned is explore every opportunity that is coming your way. You know, there's a saying that goes, even though there's an opportunity knocking your door, you still have to get up and open the door. So unless you really take that effort and embrace it, then we can, you know, we can really make magic with every experience. So don't give up on any experiences. Take it. I think, thank you so much for having watched. Thank you once again to Meera and the Munch UK team for inviting me here today. Thank you.